Okay, so we are hedging a foreign exchange exposure position, and the example that we chose is 2 million euros. And the quiz exposure is going to be Japanese yen, and I'm going to be going over this today as well. So on Wednesday, when we set this up, we basically said that this is a scenario analysis. We said that as of Wednesday, the exchange rate was 1.06, and what happens if it actually goes up, and then what happens if it actually goes down. And we are a car dealership in New Orleans who's importing euro-denominated cars, and which simply means that we're going to bring the cars here, we're going to put a price tag on them, like we discussed on Wednesday, about $106,000 each. And then we're going to sell these cars for the duration of, say, a few months. And then afterwards, we will have little over $2 million. Now, we are hoping then, when we convert these dollars back to euros, first of all, we will have enough money to pay the 2 million euros that we owe, and we're going to have some money left for us as our profits to cover our costs and to realize some profit. So what we owe does not change. It's a fixed 2 million euro amount that we owe no matter what happens to the exchange rate. However, how much we're going to end up paying for those euros in US dollars is going to change. It simply means that if the exchange rate goes to say 1.14, we could owe $2,280,000, or if the exchange rate were to go in our favor and go down to 0.96, where the dollar gains in value, then we would only have to pay $1,920,000 to buy the same 2 million euros. So as the exchange rate goes up, we incur a loss, and the exchange rate goes down, we incur a profit. So this is our foreign exchange exposure. And obviously the issue with this is that we are a car dealership, which simply means that our intention, our commerce, is not to speculate with the exchange rates, but to buy and sell cars and make a profit. So we will need to eliminate this foreign exchange risk. And, we discussed in class that if we used futures or forwards to eliminate such risk, we would have no cost. However, if we use options, then we can eliminate the downside risk, meaning we could eliminate this exchange rate going up risk while we are leaving the door open for any possible future profits. So this is our foreign exchange exposure position. We said that to have a hedge, we need to have the actual position, and we're going to create a second position, which is supposed to give us the profit as the exchange rate goes up. So remember, our foreign exchange exposure from the 2 million euros that we owe, we are incurring a loss if the exchange rate goes up. And that's this area right here. So what we need then to hedge this risk is a security, an instrument that would make us money as the exchange rate goes up, so that the losses on one side can be offset by the profits on the other side. So that's a hedge. So we said that a hedged position then would be the combination of these two, where you have the actual position plus the hedge position, and therefore you will have hopefully an offset position where you don't have a loss. So this is where we left on Wednesday, and we want to make this a little bit more precise. We chose as our hedge security an ETF called FXE. FXE is an ETF that for each share we get 100 euros, and this is more of an index rather than an actual exchange rate. So one of our significant problems right now is that as the exchange rate changes, this actually does not correspond to the current level of the FXE. So then we need to find more precisely how much or how many contracts do we need to get an FXE call option. And as you can see on Wednesday, we kind of left it as, what if we were to have one call option contract, and which wasn't really enough, because you see, if the exchange rate goes to 114, we have $160,000 loss, whereas with one contract, we could only have about $40,000 of profit. And therefore, we would still be at a loss of $120,000. So how do we actually fix this? So to begin with, since these are not an equal indexes, what we're going to do is, what if instead of increasing them by one with increments, we are going to increase them by percentage points. So that if today is 106, what if we were to increase it by 1%, or say 2%, 3%, and it's kind of so forth. So I'm just going to erase these and these, and I'm just going to increase this by 1%. And then I'm going to continue doing that. And then I will actually decrease this by 1%. So like that. So again, the reason I'm doing the percentage is because these two indexes, the actual foreign exchange rate risk for the, maybe I should just have it right here. Actual foreign exchange rate for the dollar euro is not equal in level to the price of FXE ETF, and therefore, if one increases by $1, or if one increases by one, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the same one, dollar for the other one. So we need to actually, increase them by percentage points, just so that we would have a little bit more matching securities. So I'm going to go over to 98 again. That was the level that we left on Wednesday. And I'll do the same. I'm going to increase this by 1%. And let's make it nice. Oops. And I want to decrease this by 1%. And let's make it nice. Right. So now notice again, now we are a bit closer, simply because, we have this specific position. And remember, each FXE call option comes with 100 shares of FXE, and each FXE is 100 euros. So with the actual position being your distance, the change in the exchange rate versus your original position times 100, because each contract has 100 shares of FXE, and then each FXE is 100 euros. And all we're really trying to do is trying to figure out how many shares of FXE, or how many contracts, call option contracts, do we need. So from the looks of it, at this point, let me just carry this down. These are all in US dollar profits. So notice, however, that because we actually went with a call option, which gives us the right to buy, which means as the exchange rate goes up, we are incurring a profit. I'm sorry. As the exchange rate goes up, we are having a profit. And this profit is intended to offset the actual loss that we incur from the original foreign exchange exposure by importing the cars from Germany. And so when the exchange rate goes up this much, about 4%, our loss will be in the original contract about $86,000. However, with the FXE, if you have only one contract, the actual profit that we would incur would be about $39,000. And all we would need then would be to perhaps include another contract and just make this two, in which case we could literally have, oops, sorry, we just have this right here. We could actually turn them all into a, oops, sorry, we just have to include two for each and every. And notice I didn't do anything for the zeros, simply because if the exchange rate goes down, the call option would be meaningless. And therefore, we would have no reason to actually exercise the option, which makes the option value to be zero. So on the downside of the exchange rate, while we can make a profit, the option position does not incur a loss to offset that profit. You see, if this was a futures or a forward contract, as we discussed in class in previous weeks, we would actually have this profit turn into a loss for the exchange rate going down, simply because with a futures, you don't have the choice of walking away if it turns negative. With an option, you have the choice to walk away from this if it turns negative, which means we actually, by including an option, we actually leave the door open, the possibility open for us to have a profit if the exchange rates go lower and if the US dollar gains in value. And notice we still have a little bit of loss, even though we included two contracts. And just to eliminate all risk, we could simply add risk, in which case we could actually have a profit. Now, this all looks so good to be true, which it really is, but there is a downside. But before I, talk about the downside, let me actually rephrase this, or, just give it a summary. And remember, with the quiz, we're going to be working on a Japanese yen version of it, and I'll go through that in a minute. So we said, what if we actually are a car dealership in New Orleans and we're importing a $2 million, 2 million euro worth cars? And we said, just for the sake of example, about 20 cars, so each car is about 100,000 euros. So as of today, when we're importing the cars, when we make the actual arrangement to import the cars, the exchange rate is 106, which as of today, these cars are worth about $2,120,000. So I can actually print out a price tag to put it on the window and say that each car is worth 106,000 US dollars. Now, again, this is something that I'm going to be putting on today. The problem is it will take a few months for me to sell these cars in US dollars in New Orleans, and then collect all this money, and then I need to still buy the euros and make a payment in euros to the seller, the actual exporter in Germany. So as the exchange rate changes, I can incur a loss, I can incur a profit, but since I'm just a car dealership and I'm really not in it to make any profit or loss on the exchange rates, my commerce is buy and sell cars and make a profit. I want to eliminate the downside risk of the euro getting in value, getting high in value. And therefore, how do I do that? Now, we could agree to buy the euros ahead of time with a futures or a forward contract, which would eliminate all risk with the foreign exchange fluctuations. However, with the futures or the forward, we are literally buying the euros ahead of time with an agreement that we reached today. And that pre-commitment to buy the euros eliminates any loss or any possibility of a profit as the exchange rate changes. So while I just said that I'm a dealership, car dealership, and I don't want to speculate with the currency, in a way, I don't want to miss out that opportunity that if the exchange rate works in my favor and the dollar gains in value, I might make a few dollars on the side. So that's the idea of perhaps a little bit greedy, but I want to be able to make a profit if the exchange rate goes in my favor. So the futures and forwards are free, meaning that I can actually buy them ahead of time. And there will be an exchange rate differential, as we saw it in class before. That's simply based on the interest rate differential of the dollar and to the euro. But respect to the option, you got to pay a premium, which we're going to see in a minute. So then what I will do is a scenario analysis. In the scenario analysis, I'm literally looking at what I owe, which does not change. It's 2 million euros. And this is the scenario analysis. What if the exchange rate changes from what it is today? And what if it actually goes up? Or what if it actually goes down? So as it goes up, the dollar loses value, and I'm actually selling the cards in dollars, and I need to buy the euro, which means the euro is gaining in value, which means that I would have to pay more dollars to buy the same amount of euros. Therefore, the exchange rate going up is not what I want. In fact, as the exchange rate goes up by 1% in my scenario, this is how much I actually lose. For each percentage of increase in the exchange rate in favor of the euro, I lose about $20,000. But if the exchange rate goes down in favor of the dollar, which means that the dollar gaining in value, and I'm selling the cards in dollars, and I need to buy the euros in the future, therefore euro losing value is in my benefit. With each percentage of decrease in the exchange rate in favor of the dollar and against the euro, I actually make about $20,000. So this is good. For the downside, I want to actually be able to retain that possibility of profit if the exchange rate goes down. However, I want to eliminate that risk of losing money if the exchange rate goes up. So then that's our foreign exchange exposure position. Now I want to hedge this, and the hedging will be done through an ETF called FXE, right here. And this is an ETF, and each ETF share has 100 euros, or corresponds to 100 euros. So for each dollar that I pay, or for this price, 97.20, I'm actually getting 100. But this is more of a trust, and therefore the price you're looking at is more like an index. Although you can actually trade this, but however, for our example, we're going to treat it as an index simply because the exchange rate right here does not correspond one-to-one to the price of FXE. So we're going to treat them as if they're both indexes, and we're going to increment them by 1% going up and 1% going down. So we increase them by 1% right here, and we increase this one by 1%. And we said to offset or to hedge this risk of foreign exchange exposure, we need a security that would actually make us money as the price goes or the exchange rate goes up. So exchange rate goes up, we have a loss right here. Exchange rate goes up, we need to have a profit right here. So from the FXE, if you look at the options, the call option would give us the right to buy, which means that you would actually have a profit as the exchange rate goes up. And that's exactly what we're looking at. So we said if at 98, and we actually went 3 months out, so we're looking at the January. Notice that's the maturity event right here. And notice right here that each one of these options will have 24 as in 2024, 01, that's January, 19, that's the 19th of January, 2024, call option at 55. We are looking at the 98 right there. Right? So we said that each one of these will actually make us money as the price goes up or as the exchange rate goes up. And because it's a call option and because we're buying. And we said that our profit then will be how much the exchange rate goes up. And because each call option is 100 shares, we multiply that by 100 shares. And each FXE is 100 euros, then we multiply that by 100 euros. But then the amount was not enough to offset the loss that we incur from our original position. So what we did is, what if we need to buy 3 contracts of call options? And that seems to cover quite nice. I mean, if we did it 2, we were slightly lower. And if we did it 3, slightly higher. So we are going to be over hedging this. And notice, because this is a call option, we don't really incur any sort of cost or profit if the price goes down. So the output, the profit and loss on the call option is zero for the exchange rates that are below the current strike price that we intend to buy. So notice now that that when you actually combine the two, the foreign exchange exposure and the hedging position, we are actually at a profit when the exchange rate goes up, simply because we kind of overhedged it, and we have a profit regardless as the exchange rate goes down. So with the futures, this side would have been zero straight down. However, it wouldn't cost us anything to buy the futures. Now, with the option, we have this side, no matter what happens, as a profit, and we just covered ourselves in case the exchange rate goes up. So it's the ultimate scenario. Now, notice I keep saying that when you do this, right? So I'm just going to say the cost is zero, simple, because you're literally pre-buying your euros. You're buying your euros ahead of time. You're buying them today for delivery 3 months, or for an actual exchange of dollars to the euros in 3 months. When it comes to options, however, we had a cost. So to buy this, notice there's a bid price right here. There's an ask price right here. So that's what we're going to be looking. And notice that $98 strike is currently being sold at 140, right? So remember that it's 140 per share times 100 shares. That's one contract. And we said we're going to do 3 contracts. And that's pretty cheap. It's about $420. So the idea behind this is that with the futures, you are doing this ahead of time, and therefore you're committing to it, and therefore your cost is zero. But with options, you pay a little bit of premium, but you have the choice of you have the potential to have an actual profit if exchange rate works in your favor. So how do we do this for the Japanese yen? So let's take a look. I think the ETF for Japanese yen is the FXY. So the only thing about the Japanese yen is that, let's look at, say, CNBC. Yeah, today was a bad day. The market was actually all over the place. So if you look at, in fact, actually, let's actually recover. So the dollar Japanese yen is 149.70. So that's a bit higher than your dollar euro 105. So it's about 100 times more. So 1 USD is equal to approximately 150 Japanese yen. So in the case of FXY, each FXY is equal to 10,000 Japanese yen, right? So when you're working this for the quiz, first of all, your foreign exchange rate is going to change from 106 to about 150. So that's right here. That's your 150 approximately, right? So rather than going 149.78, you could simply go to the 150. Now, once we do that, let's say 150, well, a lot of things will change, right? Well, first of all, I don't want any reminder there. So, and notice I still incremented by 1% going up, 1% going up, and then 1% going down, and that doesn't change. And we're going to owe X amount of Japanese yen, so we're going to change that. And notice how your profit loss all of a sudden also changes and goes into the millions, simply because your exchange rate is now at 100 times more than the euro dollar. Now your Y now also changes to a level of 62. that works the other way around. So we'll go with say 62 and then go with this position and see how it actually works. The only problem now you see is that the issue that you see is, notice how when I typed in 62, I still have a problem right here because 62 and 150 are actually reversed. So with the Japanese yen, you're going to have to change this to a possibly an inverse. So you can do like this, or you could do it the other way around. You could do the 150 into what it will look like this. So you can do 1 over 150. And notice how now you're looking at 0.6666, right? So personally, I would actually go with this, simply because with the exchange rate, I want to make them similar, right? So if you go with 150 and then you go with an indirect quotation, then you get into the problem of, just the opposites. But if you go with an exchange rate that looks similar on both sides, which is a direct quotation on both sides, then you can actually have the exact same example as we did with euros. So rather than having 150, you could actually go with 0.0066. So you could literally do 1 over 62. Oh, I'm sorry, 1 over 150. And we could expand this a little bit more, like this. And again, the only reason that you're actually seeing this as 0.0066 and this 62 is because FXY is equal to 10,000 Japanese yen. So in our example of the euro, we actually saw that each FXE was equal to 100 shares, whereas this one is equal to 10,000 Japanese yen. So on the quiz, just make sure that you actually change the required currency. Rather than euros, you want to have Japanese yen, however many Japanese yen are asked. And with the exchange rate, don't forget to convert the indirect to the direct or the direct to the indirect. So what you see here is a direct quotation. This is actually an indirect quotation. That's 150 Japanese yen that's buying $1. So and then this is a direct quotation. So this is again $62 that buys 10,000 Japanese yen. So apples and apples. We don't want to have apples and oranges. So you can actually convert this one to the other side, to the indirect, or you can convert this one to the direct. And I actually chose going 1 over 150, and that actually fixes my problem. As soon as I have this, I actually have a similar looking indexes on both sides, and I can increment them by 1%. And keep in mind that this is a 10,000 Japanese yen, and therefore, when we include the amount of Japanese yen here, this number should make a little bit more sense. And if you have any questions, please do ask. And the quiz is very similar to the euro example that we had done on Wednesday and today. And these examples should help a great deal. And if they don't, like I said, please do ask. And I'm available to answer your emails. And obviously, we can Zoom meet. And thank you for working with me. And I really do appreciate your understanding. And thank you. And have a great day. Bye now.